What is the worst first date you've ever been on? Story 1. The app, Tinder. The time, 2016, Saturday, evening. The conversation, via Tinder. Her, I need a drink. Me, ditto. Her, got any? Me, sure. Her, address? The date, we're sitting on my couch, talking and sipping a beer. Her, so, I have a confession. Me, alright, let's hear it. Her, Tinder wouldn't let me update my age. I'm not really 24. Me, how old are you, then? Her, my high school senior prom is next month. Me, taking beer out of her hands, you need to leave. Now, total time of date, 15 minutes. Edit, to clarify, the fact that she waited until she was in my house, with a beer in her hand, to tell me about her age, is a problem. The fact that I was a 30-year-old man, is a problem. The fact that she was under the drinking age, is the problem. Story 2. My stepmom asked if she could set me up on a date with her cousin's roommate. She said he was nice, attractive, had graduated, had a job, an active social life, and he was 6'4", which was a turn-on for me. I showed up at the coffee spot we'd agreed on, and very clearly, the picture he'd sent me was very, very, very old. Whatever, I decided, he was nice enough looking. He ordered a complicated coffee drink, I got water, and then he ordered honey toast for himself. I'd said maybe 4 words, hi, how are you? Before he started in. You're really pretty, he said flatly. There was something in his face that told me he was annoyed. Like, really pretty. Prettier than the pictures Lisa sent me. I shrugged. Thanks, Seriously, you're way prettier in person, he cut me off. He looked around the cafe nervously, his leg bouncing beneath the table. Lisa didn't say you'd be so pretty. He plucked nervously at his shirt. His words were nice, but there was something aggressive about the way he said it. Lisa mentioned you're a chef. Yeah, well, I will be. I'm still a grunt in the kitchen. Is that what you went to school for? No, actually, I went to circus college. I paused. I'm sorry, what? Clown school. Where you learn to be a clown. But you're a chef. Cooking is my day job. Being a clown is my passion, but there's not a ton of clowning jobs out there right now. Before I could ask if he was joking, his phone started ringing. He pulled it out of his pocket and answered his phone while sitting right there, on a date. My jaw dropped. No, it's fine, he said into the phone, turning slightly away. Yeah, 7:45? I think I can make that. Yeah, I'll meet you out front. Okay. Bye. He set his phone on the table and turned back to me. So, you think this'll be wrapped up by 7:45? Yeah, for sure. I wanted to leave right then, but part of me still wondered. So, clown college? He launched into a whole spiel, going on and on about learning to face paint, his clown name, wearing big shoes and fitting in small cars. After the clown conversation, he switched over to talking about his apartment and his pets and his favorite hobbies, karaoke in his clown posse bowling league, and a slew of other things, not letting me get even a single word in edgewise. I sat in almost total silence for close to 30 minutes. He finally stopped talking when the cafe worker came back over to drop the check. So, he said once the cafe worker was gone, wanna go 50-50? Yeah, no, I said, shaking my head. That's kind of messed up. He rolled his eyes. Girls always expect guys to pay for them. Especially pretty girls like you. I've been really cool this whole time, but I can't deal with this. You think just because you're sitting there batting your big blue eyes, I'll pay for whatever you want? I sighed. First of all, you've talked about yourself for an hour straight. Do you know anything about me? Anything at all? You ordered a $13 drink and a $15 dessert. I got water. In what universe would I split this with you? He sighed. Is this about the clown thing? I should have known you wouldn't understand. Nope. I stood up so fast my chair screeched behind me. You're right, I don't. Story 3. Fast forward to the date. She arrives, doesn't say hello properly, super rude in my book, seems just annoyed like she doesn't want to be there, then why the heck didn't you even show, doesn't even look at me when talking. I asked if there's any place she would prefer or any food she doesn't like. She says it's fine, she likes everything. So, I take her to a place that's not super fancy, but you know, standard stuff with some nice food. We sit down, and she says she doesn't like the food here. Then why didn't you say anything outside when looking at the menu? She didn't try to engage in conversation at all. I asked her about things in her profile, but she basically just said yeah or no. Didn't ask me anything at all. Her pictures were deceiving as heck as well. Did not look like the pictures at all. At one point, I was almost thinking of leaving, but obviously, I didn't. I really don't understand why someone would even go on a date if it's such a hassle for you. What's the point? Story 4. Started fine with a decent dinner. 1 hour later, she grabs me by the neck, looks me in the eye, and says, "I want you to get me pregnant." Feeling completely uncomfortable, I said, "Maybe it's best we call it a night." On the way home, she starts screaming and yelling, then undid her seatbelt and began kicking the daylights out of me while I was driving her home. Pulled over, called the police, they came pretty quickly and fortunately took her home. Apparently, she was on some kind of drugs, and they kicked in right when dinner ended. What a night. Story 5. Met a girl on Craigslist. This was a long time ago, obviously. After a few messages, we set up a date at a bar downtown. I show up, and she's already there with a guy friend. No biggie, I'm thinking, she's just playing it safe. They are at a 2-person table, and the place is packed. They already have drinks, so I grab one for myself and put it on my tab. Her and her friend proceed to ignore me. I say something, and neither one acknowledges anything unless I ask a direct question. Even then, I get one-word answers with attitude. So I finish my beer, pay my bill, and leave without saying a word. Later, I get a barrage of messages about how I'm a jerk for sticking them with their own tab. Story 6. A while ago, I agreed to meet a Tinder date at a local bar. Things went alright, but I could very much tell she was loaded prior to my arrival. We have a couple of drinks, and she's made several comments on how cold it is in this bar. Granted, I'm wearing a t-shirt and jeans, so I assume she's one of those perpetually cold women with poor circulation. She excuses herself to the restroom, and half an hour goes by. Then, nearly a full hour goes by, and I figure one of two things happened: either she sneakily ditched me or massively needs help in the restroom. I ask one of the female bartenders to go check on her politely, and it turns out she had OD'd on heroin, shooting up in the bathroom, surgical tubing around her arm and everything. I was heavily questioned by the police and even put in a squad car until the bartenders vouched for me, and I wasn't tied to a drug case I had nothing to do with. She ended up passing later that night. Definitely the worst first date ever. Story 7. I agreed to go on a date with an older coworker from my first job at a supermarket. I was 20, he was 27. He took me to lunch and didn't let me order for myself. When the waitress came to ask what I wanted to drink, he cut me off and placed both my drink and food order. I hadn't even glanced at the menu yet. He proceeded by saying I needed to meet his mom and brother soon and how we should get married and eventually have kids. Mind you, he didn't know a single thing about me. I quit shortly after that, and he would message me on social media every now and then, saying things like my then boyfriend didn't deserve me, until I blocked him everywhere. Story 8. Went on a date after talking with someone on Tinder for a couple of weeks. The conversation online was pleasant, with the usual small talk about hobbies or interests, etc. No red flags. We arranged to meet in the city for coffee. I arrive, and she's already there, looking nothing like her pictures, catfished, lol. I think to myself, oh well, most people tend to embellish their photos, let's see what she's like in person. This is where I messed up. We get talking, and she asks what I'm doing next weekend. I love camping and exploring. I say I'm camping and 4WDing with mates. She asks if she can come along. Nah, it's okay, we only have just met. She loses her cool, acts like we have been dating for years, saying how dare you not take me along, blah blah blah. I messed up again and decided to stay talking. She asks where I'm going to camp after calming down a bit, and I give a rough estimate, X Forest. She replies, oh that's nice, I'll see you there. I find it weird and reiterate that I'm not comfortable with that. To her reply, no, I'm going there, and I'm going to kill you. You won't see me coming, as she proceeds to laugh a maniacal laugh. That was the last straw for me. I stand up, place money to pay for my coffee, and walk off, telling her not to follow me or I'll call the police. I block her and move on. Luckily, nothing came to fruition. I was a lot more careful with who I met up with from then on. Story 9. We went to Dave and Buster's. We met and sat down, and I could tell she was uncomfortable. So, I was just trying to bring up topics to talk about for her to ease into it, but I was only getting one-word answers or literally, I don't know, when asking her questions about herself. We sat in silence for about 5 minutes. She got up to go to the bathroom, and when she came back, I just straight up asked her, "Hey, if you're not having a good time, you're more than welcome to leave if you want to, it's perfectly fine." She got all insulted, picked up her purse, and went to leave. I just said again, "If you're having fun, I'm more than happy to stay, but it's just like we're not even talking right now." So she got up and left, and I ordered another beer, waited a bit to watch the rest of the game on TV, and left. I got a text from her saying how insulted she was that I would ask her if she wanted to leave, etc. I just said, "I tried talking to you for 15 minutes and got no responses." Then I find out, she told me, she wasn't able to order her own food for herself until she was 22 and has serious anxiety issues, etc. So I was just like, then why'd we choose Dave and Buster's instead of a movie, where we don't have to talk? I was so confused. The whole week or two leading up to it, she's talking to me every day with interest. I ended up paying, which isn't a big deal because all she ordered was fries. Story 10. I finally took a girl out I had been pining after for a long time. She had been in a bad relationship for about 2 years, had a kid with the guy, and they finally broke up. I waited a few weeks and asked her out. She agreed. I picked her up with a teddy bear holding some flowers. She loved them and put them in water immediately. We went to a local sushi place, ate our fill, and headed out for a movie. Watched the whole movie together in the theater, flirting and touching the whole time. Afterwards, we went driving around and just talked for about 2 hours before I took her home. We made out on her front steps for probably 20 minutes before we finally peeled ourselves away from each other. I went to bed feeling absolutely fantastic. Woke up the next day and texted her good morning. No reply. Whatever, she had a baby. Figured she was busy, went about my day. Finally got on Facebook during my lunch break, and she was back together with her ex already. Haven't talked to her since. Story 11. I went out with a coworker who asked me to go furniture shopping with him because he wanted a woman's opinion when decorating his new house. He said that for taking the time to go shopping with him, he wanted to buy me dinner. I met him at his place and he drove the furniture store. He asked for my opinion on different pieces of furniture and, if I liked anything, he would examine it thoroughly and then tell me everything that was wrong with it and why I was wrong to like it. 2 hours later, we left the store without buying so much as a lamp. He stopped by Kentucky Fried Chicken and bought a bucket of chicken. He then drove us back to his house. We ate the KFC at his kitchen counter, he had no table or chairs, and then he announced it was time for us to go to bed, more accurately, to mattress on the floor since he had no bed. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. He was insulted and disappointed that we weren't going to end that fantastic evening with coitus. Worst part, I had to look at this moron every day at work for the next 5 years. Story 12. When eHarmony first came out, I decided to give it a try. I was matched with a gentleman who lived about 25 miles from me. On the day of our date, that ended up being a 2-hour drive in traffic. Yes, he asked if I would come to him. When I got to his place, he asked me to come inside and see his aquarium. I went inside to find a house with no furniture and a piranha tank in the corner. I watched this guy feed his piranhas, then, against my better judgment, we set off on the world's worst date. He offered to drive, but 5 minutes from his home, he announced we had to go get his car washed since it was his little sister's graduation the next day, and he didn't want to roll up in a filthy car. I asked if he could please just drive me back to my car, as clearly he doesn't want to be on a date, and neither do I. But instead, I found myself sitting on a bench at a car wash while this guy bought 2 bottles of malt liquor from the convenience store next door. He proceeded to crack one open, offering me the other. I declined and informed him that drinking at the car wash is surely not permitted. Sure enough, an employee came over and told him to throw it out. I once again asked to please be driven back to my car. But this guy insisted we get something to eat. At the time, I didn't have a cell phone, it was that long ago, so I agreed to get something to eat if we could just go back to my car afterward. He took me to some cheap sandwich shop, then hid in the bathroom when it was time to pay. I sat there for 10 minutes before just paying the damn check. Not surprisingly, he showed up immediately after I paid. On the drive home, he stopped once again, this time to get gas. He got out of the car to pump the gas and looked at the woman at the pump next to us, pointed into the car at me, and exclaimed, "Damn, this girl can't keep her hands off my junk." I was mortified. It felt like I was on a prank show. Fortunately, he dropped me off at my car right after this. I ran out of that car as soon as he set it in park, and I didn't look back. I could hear him screaming after me, "Where you going?" I thought we were gonna hook up. Story 13. After a couple of weeks of chatting on social media, we agreed to meet. It wasn't a date, actually, but a casual hangout. At that time, for a single guy like me, meeting with any girl would be considered a date. She asked me to come with wine, and I took beer for myself. I always try to be punctual, so I reached on time. She was gorgeous and tall. I hate tall girls who are taller than me. Well, not everyone is lucky, not everyone can possess short height. I am 5'9", and she was almost 6 feet. When we met, we started with casual conversation. It was 50-50 participation. When she had her first glass of wine, the conversation shifted to 70-30, where she spoke 70% of the things. After a couple more glasses of wine and beer, it turned out to be 100-0. The whole time I was thinking, who gets high on wine? And then, my mental torture started. She talked about everything, from her abusive dad to abusive boyfriends. She opened her heart in front of me, which I barely remember, and I was looking at her like a dummy. After one more hour, it became unbearable. I was looking for an escape, but it wasn't enough. Suddenly, she started crying. I was dumbstruck, having no idea how to calm a girl down who cries in front of me. I am still clueless. It was almost midnight. After all those dramatic events, I asked for permission to leave. She insisted I stay there, saying she was afraid of the darkness. For me, it was an opportunity. For her, she was drunk, having no idea what she was talking about. I follow 2 rules rigorously. 1. Never take advantage of someone's pity situation. She was frustrated, emotionally bent from her past abuses. 2. I can't sleep with someone whom I don't love. If you do, the next morning you will be left with regrets, if you have some conscience. And I left that place after making thousands of excuses. After that, we never spoke again. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. We'll see you on the next one.